Friends, we can all see that many white bloggers have millions of followers. Please support me too, because my followers are still few. Black bloggers also deserve to be famous. Raise fist medium dark skin tone. My friends, let's unite and lift each other up. Please press subscribe button and like. In the heart of Fairfax, Virginia, a quiet afternoon shattered with a piercing scream. 12-year-old Jordan Mitchell stumbled back, clutching his face as the burning sting of pepper spray invaded his senses. He had been on his way to the park, sketchbook in hand, dreaming of superheroes and ice cream. Now, he was gasping for breath, bewildered by the sudden aggression of Officer Thompson, a white cop whose badge read 624. "Don't move," Thompson barked, towering over Jordan with a menacing glare. Jordan's vision blurred, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Why did you spray me?" he cried, his voice cracking. Thompson didn't respond. Instead, he seized Jordan's thin arm, twisting it behind his back with a force that made the boy whimper. Bystanders began to slow their cars, some recording the scene on their phones. "Hey, that kid didn't do anything," a voice shouted from across the street, but Thompson's grip only tightened. "You think you can run around here stealing, and nobody's going to do a damn thing about it?" Thompson hissed, dragging Jordan toward the patrol car. "I wasn't stealing," Jordan protested, choking on his tears. "I swear, I was just walking the park." Moments earlier, Jordan had been at home, finishing his homework early. His mother had just left for her shift at the dental clinic, and his father, a high-ranking FBI official, was in Washington, D.C., working on a case Jordan wasn't allowed to discuss. All he knew was that his father's work involved national security, and that it was serious. Now, he was being shoved into the back of a police cruiser, his backpack abandoned on the pavement. Thompson slammed the door shut, wiping his hands as if he had just dealt with a rodent. Jordan sat trembling in the back seat, the chemical sting still fresh on his skin. "Where's my backpack?" he whispered, desperation creeping into his voice. Thompson ignored him, starting the car and pulling away from the curb. "Please," Jordan pleaded again. "I didn't do anything wrong." Thompson chuckled darkly. "You people never think you did anything wrong." Thompson chuckled darkly. "You people never think you did anything wrong." Back at the corner store on Wilkins Avenue, Mr. Patel, the store clerk, was still inside, confused. He hadn't confirmed that a kid was involved in any theft. The alleged crime was a soda and a candy bar. But Thompson had acted on his own assumptions, letting his biases guide him. As Jordan sat in the car, fear began to morph into something else, defiance. His father had always told him, "Stay calm, stay observant. There's power in silence if you're watching closely enough." Jordan took a deep breath. Try to remember that wisdom. The ride to the precinct was short, but it felt like an eternity. Thompson dragged Jordan through a side entrance, bypassing the front desk. "Where are we going?" Jordan asked, his voice trembling. "You'll find out," Thompson replied, shoving him into an empty interrogation room. The walls were gray, and a flickering light buzzed overhead. "Sit," Thompson ordered. Jordan hesitated, but eventually complied, his knees knocking together. "Want to tell me where you put the stuff?" Thompson leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "What stuff?" Jordan blinked, confusion washing over him. "Don't play dumb," Thompson snapped. "I didn't take anything," Jordan insisted, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. Thompson's face twitched, but he left the room without another word. Alone, Jordan looked around, trying to think. He noticed a camera in the corner and decided to speak aloud. "My name is Jordan Mitchell. I'm 12 years old. I was pepper sprayed and arrested without being told why. I didn't steal anything. I didn't run. I didn't resist." He paused, adding, "And I hope someone's watching this." What Jordan didn't know was that someone was indeed watching. Rosa Martinez, a young intern at the precinct, had stumbled upon the live feed while sorting paperwork. Her stomach dropped at the sight of the officer dragging a crying child. She discreetly began recording the monitor, knowing she had to document the injustice. Back in the interrogation room, Jordan took another deep breath. His face still burned, but his mind was clear. He didn't know how, but he sensed that this wasn't going to end the way Officer Thompson thought it would. Minutes later, Thompson returned, holding a folder and a wet cloth. "Clean yourself up," he said, tossing cloth on the table. Jordan didn't move. Thompson stepped forward, grabbing Jordan's chin. "Don't make this harder than it already is." Jordan flinched, but he didn't back down. "I didn't steal anything," he repeated. Thompson's eyes narrowed. "You were walking down the street minutes after a call comes in. You matched the suspect." "I wasn't even in the store," Jordan protested. Thompson slammed his hand on the table, causing Jordan to jump. "You want to play tough guy? Go ahead. But you don't get to mouth off when you're sitting in that chair with pepper spray still on your face." Jordan's fingers curled into fists, but he remembered his father's words. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. His voice calmed. Thompson's expression shifted, revealing his resentment. "Because people like you think the rules don't apply to you, and someone's got to teach you otherwise." Just then, Detective Mark Collins entered the room, glancing at Jordan's bruised face. "You okay, kid?" he asked gently. Jordan nodded, unsure. Collins turned to Thompson. "Step out for a minute." As Thompson left, Collins approached Jordan. "What's your name?" "Jordan Mitchell," he replied. Collins' expression changed. "Is your dad named Malcolm?" Jordan didn't respond, but a look on his face was enough. Collins stepped back, muttering, "You've got to be kidding me." Outside, Collins confronted Thompson. "That's Agent Mitchell's kid," he said. Disbelief etched on his face. Thompson's face turned pale. "I didn't know. Does that change what you did?" Collins pressed. Meanwhile, Rosa continued recording, capturing the unfolding chaos. Back in the interrogation room, Jordan sat quietly, his heart racing. He didn't know what was happening outside, but he felt a shift in the air. Moments later, Captain Reynolds entered, his demeanor serious. "We're going to get you cleaned up, and then you're going to call your father." Jordan's eyes widened. "You know who he is?" Reynolds nodded. "Yes, I know exactly who he is." As Jordan's father arrived at the precinct, the atmosphere shifted. Malcolm Mitchell, a high-ranking FBI agent, walked in with an air of authority. Conversations halted, and officers straightened their spines. "Where is he?" Malcolm demanded. "In the interview room," Reynolds replied. Malcolm entered the room, kneeling in front of Jordan. "Are you hurt?" Jordan nodded, his voice small. "It still burns." Malcolm's expression hardened as he turned to the one-way mirror. "Get that officer in here and bring the footage." As Thompson entered, he avoided eye contact with Jordan. "I didn't know who he was," he stammered. Malcolm's voice was cold. "You pepper-sprayed my son without provocation. You arrested him with no probable cause." Thompson opened his mouth to defend himself, but Malcolm cut him off. "You didn't call his parents. You didn't notify child services." The tension in the room was palpable as Malcolm demanded, "Roll the tape." The footage played, showing Thompson spraying Jordan and dragging him away. Malcolm's expression remained stoic, but inside, he was a storm brewing. "I want a full internal review," he said, his voice steady. "I'm pressing federal charges." As Thompson was escorted out, Jordan felt a sense of relief wash over him. He had been seen and justice was beginning to unfold. Days turned into weeks, and the story of Jordan Mitchell spread like wildfire. Protests erupted, demanding accountability and reform. Jordan's classmates rallied around him, holding signs that read, "We walk with Jordan." In the midst of the chaos, Jordan found his voice. He spoke at youth forums, sharing his story and advocating for change. "I thought being silent would keep me safe," he said. "Turns out silence is where the danger grows." Malcolm watched with pride as his son transformed from a victim into a leader. Together, they worked to create a new narrative, one that emphasized the importance of justice and the power of speaking out. As the sun set over Fairfax, Jordan sat at his kitchen table, sketching a new badge, a symbol of hope and resilience. "Voice matters," he wrote beneath it, knowing that together they were just getting started. In a world that often silenced the vulnerable, Jordan Mitchell had become a beacon of change, proving that even the smallest voices could echo loudly in the fight for justice. The following weeks were a whirlwind of media coverage and community support. Jordan's story had gone viral, igniting conversations about police brutality and racial profiling across the nation. News outlets clamor for interviews, and social media buzz with hashtags like hashtag Justice for Jordan and hashtag Voices Matter. Jordan School organized a rally, inviting students, parents, and community leaders to come together in solidarity. The gymnasium was packed, filled with banners and posters demanding justice. Jordan stood at the front, flanked by his classmates, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. "Today, we stand together," he began, his voice shaking slightly but growing stronger with each word. "I didn't think this would happen to me. I thought I was just a kid walking to the park. But now I know that my voice matters, and so does every kid's voice out there." The crowd erupted in applause, and Jordan felt a surge of hope. He was no longer just a victim. He was a symbol of change. Meanwhile, Malcolm was busy behind the scenes, working with civil rights organizations and lawmakers to push for reforms in policing practices. He met with community leaders, discussing ways to implement better training for officers and establish accountability measures. One evening, as they sat together at the dinner table, Jordan looked at his father. "Dad, do you think things will really change?" Malcolm paused, considering his son's question. "Change takes time, Jordan. But every voice that speaks out brings us one step closer. You've already made a difference." Jordan smiled, feeling a sense of purpose. He wanted to do more. He wanted to ensure that no other child would have to experience what he had. As the weeks turned into months, Jordan and Malcolm collaborated on a community initiative called Youth Voices for Justice. They organized workshops in schools, teaching kids about their rights and how to advocate for themselves. They invited speakers who had experienced similar injustices, creating a safe space for dialogue and healing. One day, during a workshop, a young girl named Mia raised her hand. "What if we get scared? What if no one believes us?" Jordan looked at her, remembering his own fears. "It's okay to be scared," he said gently. "But speaking out is a first step, and if we stand together, we can make sure our voices are heard." The room filled with nods of agreement, and Jordan felt a sense of unity among his peers. They were all in this together, fighting for a better future. As the movement grew, so did the backlash. Some officers and community members were resistant to the changes being proposed. Rumors circulated about Jordan and Malcolm, painting them as troublemakers rather than advocates for justice. One evening, as they sat in their living room, Malcolm received a call from a colleague at the FBI. "Malcolm, there are whispers about you and your son. Some officers feel threatened by the changes you're pushing for." Malcolm sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I expected some resistance, but this is getting out of hand." Jordan overheard the conversation and felt a knot in his stomach. "Dad, are we in danger?" Malcolm turned to his son, his expression serious. "No one is going to hurt us, Jordan. We're doing the right thing, and that's what matters. But we need to be careful." As the days passed, Jordan continued to speak out, sharing his story at rallies and community events. He became a voice for those who felt voiceless, inspiring others to join the fight for justice. One day, while walking home from school, Jordan noticed a group of kids being harassed by an officer. His heart raced as he remembered his own experience. Without thinking, he stepped forward. "Hey, leave them alone," he shouted, his voice steady. The officer turned, surprised. "And who are you?" "I'm Jordan Mitchell," he replied, standing tall. "And I won't let you bully these kids." The officer hesitated, and Jordan felt a surge of courage. "You're supposed to protect us, not scare us. We have rights." The officer backed off, and Jordan felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had stood up for others, just as he had wanted to be stood up for. As the movement continued to grow, Malcolm and Jordan received an invitation to speak at a national conference on youth advocacy in Washington, D.C. They were excited but nervous, knowing the importance of their message on the day of the conference. They stood before a packed auditorium, filled with activists, lawmakers, and community leaders. Jordan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "Thank you for having us," he began, his voice steady. "I'm here to share my story, but more importantly, I'm here to remind you that every child deserves to feel safe and heard." As he spoke, he saw nods of agreement and tears in the audience. He shared his experience, the fear, the pain, and ultimately, the hope that had emerged from it. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. Jordan felt a sense of accomplishment, knowing that he had made an impact. After the conference, Malcolm received a call from a senator who had been in the audience. "Malcolm, your son is remarkable. We need to work together to push for legislative changes that protect children's rights." Malcolm smiled, feeling a sense of pride. "Thank you. We're ready to make a difference." As they left the conference, Jordan turned to his father. "Do you think we can really change things?" Malcolm nodded, placing a hand on Jordan's shoulder. "I believe we can, and it starts with you." With renewed determination, Jordan continued to advocate for justice, knowing that his voice mattered. He had transformed from a scared child into a powerful advocate, proving that even the smallest voices could echo loudly in the fight for justice. As the sun set over Fairfax, Jordan sat at his kitchen table, sketching a new badge, a symbol of hope and resilience. "Voice matters," he wrote beneath it, knowing that together, they were just getting started. In a world that often silences the vulnerable, Jordan Mitchell had become a beacon of change, inspiring others to stand up and speak out. His journey was just beginning, and he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that he was not alone. The movement continued to grow, and Jordan's story became a catalyst for change, sparking conversations about justice, equality, and the importance of standing up for what is right. He had found his purpose, and with each step forward, he knew that he was making a difference. Not just for himself, but for every child who had ever felt afraid or unheard as he looked out the window, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Jordan felt a sense of hope. The world was changing, and he was proud to be a part of it. Together, they would continue to fight for justice, ensuring that every voice was heard and every child felt safe. The echo of their fight would resonate for generations to come, a reminder that change is possible when we stand together.